meeting today in order to launch a tool specializing in the security of investigative journalists and investigative press institutions. As you know, we always feel that security has become a cliche. Too many trainings on security and on the protection of journalists' safety, which I don't know to what extent we apply them. However, let me say here that only when things start falling off, we realize that we do need urgent help and support to rescue our security and the security of our sources. I was struck by statistics as I was preparing for this session. For example, Iraq, that is considered one of the most dangerous fields for journalists. Ever since the invasion until now, an estimated 500 journalists were killed. I had a flashback of what happened to Jamal Khashoggi, how he was targeted. The main reason why he was targeted is that he was subject to electronic tagging in addition to tracking the entire network he used to work in. I also remembered Pegasus that hacked devices of hundreds of Arab journalists. Thus, the tool is important. It's crucial that we focus on our digital and personal security as investigative journalists and other types of journalism, because we are the most targeted, yet the less precocious in confronting such targeting. Of course, this tool would be introduced to us by our colleague and expert George Khouri, who works as a specialized technician at JSAT, the Jordan Open Source Association. Welcome, George. Thank you, Majdeline. George, let's first determine, is it digital security, digital safety, or personal security? I always get confused. So if you can provide some definitions of each expression and how each one is different from the other. Yes, this is a good question. Digital security and digital safety, there's a lot of similarities between them. We differentiate between them in a simple way. We think of digital security as defenses we consider when we use the internet. As journalists, main activities we use or we do on the internet are using the browser, emails, search engines to look for a piece of information or to communicate with others. So digital security is the defenses that we utilize. The other idea is the principle of privacy. That is how we carry out such activities without providing any information that could disclose our identity to any party, whether an internet service provider or any other person at the same place accessing the same network, our email service provider. So definitions are different, but their significance to us as journalists and human rights defenders, important for us as journalists and as human rights defenders, as normal human beings. We are very much concerned about the digital safety. We have to be aware. Awareness is important. Definitions might not be so important, but we have to be aware of how to improve such security and safety. George, you worked in JSAT. You always support the civil society. Among the segments or the targeted groups are the journalists in the civil society. To what extent it is important for us to consider security, digital security as a necessity in our work? Like how much out of 10 would you say that we are precocious? An assessment is not simple, but through my experience in training different journalists from different fields, discussing different topics, journalists have to take bigger precautions. Some of them work with sensitive topics. They sometimes share files and information with other parties.
there are some problems established in our minds as or our mindsets as communities. How do we share the information? Is it through insecure emails or WhatsApp messages? Everybody has can access the WhatsApp messages. Sometimes we are not concerned about our passwords, protecting our passwords. We don't have no ideas about the accounts, journalists' accounts information or data. We don't have ideas about the security, digital security, our personal digital security. There are other problems such as the fact that journalists sometimes use their personal accounts to establish or to make Facebook pages, subjecting themselves to threats or penetration or hacking, which can affect them personally other than professionally or career-wise. As you said, JSAT is for journalists and for press institutions. As a journalist, I can be preventative. I mean, take my digital precautions. To what extent an institution can have its own security protocol when it comes to a digital field or to journalists as a whole? This is another important question I would want to raise your attention to. The digital security principles in the cases where we send or receive information, there are two parties involved, the sender and the recipient. We have the digital security that we need to take into account. We have also the confidentiality and the privacy when we speak about institutions or maybe press institutions or journalists. There are basic rules that should be implemented or should apply to individuals just as they should be applied on groups. There is the institution's digital security. As a staffer in a group of journalists, what am I supposed to do? When we work together, we need to communicate. We need to, for example, communicate on WhatsApp groups or Signal or share emails. So it's very important to have this security, digital security achieved, and JSAT focuses on this. There's a big and a main part of which speaks about the operational security as well as measuring as a group of individuals communicating with each other, sharing files. We have accounts, a group of accounts, joint accounts actually. As we were preparing for this tool, as we are preparing for a tool including the international network and collaboration, just to hear each other. As we prepare for this tool, we should have examined it. So we divided it into two organizations, two persons in charge of the two organizations. One of them, or based on the recommendations we will be sharing later, they were saying that as a small group or organizations, I cannot apply these. So I thought maybe I should be asking looking for or seeking solutions. For example, the small organizations, what can they do if they don't have access to resources?
The idea is that this tool can give us a number of recommendations that can be applied depending on how that institution works, depending on the reactions they give. But there's nothing in digital security, anything or one way that all can follow, no one method, no one solution. We just present ideas, we have proposals, suggestions, but these should be worked on together. And if we don't, if we don't understand what is it that you need to do, what is because we explain the objective, and there should be like a two-way authentication. So the thing about it is that in case some information was leaked, some passwords were shared, the email, the password user. Well, this two-way authentication helps a lot. And this is the example. For example, when we talk about organizations, one of the bad habits is that they share the files in WhatsApp groups, for instance. So we need to think, what does this mean? What are the consequences? sharing our files. And what if some of the staff, his or her device was hacked, or someone would get, and or sometimes we leave our laptops unprotected with the passwords and so on, or that the mobiles would be left unattended with that would be holding many or would be having many files. These bad habits, regardless of what we do, we need to have ideas to think how to support our security and to and it's true that even in small organizations, even if they don't stick to these recommendations, but they need to understand fully how can they help out, how can they present that. So so this is the thing that and okay, it's because of the shortage of time. Can we ask please explain how can they use this tool, even if not in details, please, can you? Sure. The tool, it's like it's an e-tool, and we'll share with you the link. However, from that assessment that it covers five five different things in digital ways. It's the operational security. And digital security means, and I will explain it later, but you'll be asked a number of questions, and and they would be divided into five groups. And these questions, sometimes we might not have any answer to these questions, or at times the idea is that we have a little idea but don't know what to do with it. So it's about giving us an assessment that, like, they're numbers, and these numbers mean something. And then we come up with a number of recommendations. These recommendations could be used, could be printed in a PDF file, could be saved. My suggestion is that you follow these recommendations, try to understand what are the answers that you can give in those 4 5 dimensions that would lead you to that place. What this tool covers, the operational security. It focuses on the habits that we tend to use over time. Because due to not having clear ideas, or at times so this is what we see. This is so just to rectify our use of these bad habits, or such as leaving our laptops unattended, our devices unsecured, and so on. The other thing is the security of devices. How can we activate, operate it? And this is one of the suggestions that we talk about security of devices, or how to, for instance, like to shut down the camera and the mic once not in use, or if we feel that this might lead to some leakage. So we need to focus on the security of devices, also the account security, and not to use the same passwords in more than one thing, and to use the two-way authentication, and not to use SMS. Also could be hacked, or we could be in a country where it does not cover our SMS mobile device, or that they would use outdated technology. So there are a number of attacks that we can be subject to. Also, self-security, meaning our security as individuals, as people, and the risks that could accompany the type of work. So this is the type of the fifth recommendation. We as the journalists, what are the types of risks that we encounter in our work? So I've checked the questions. They're very clear. And at times, if you don't know what to answer, it's better that you say I don't know, so that you benefit from the recommendations. Yes, I've checked those questions, and because we've translated them and from English to Arabic, uh, any question would every question has its own recommendation, so we need to be very accurate. And it would take you like 80 questions could take you from half an hour to an hour to answer them all. They don't undermine this tool, it opened my horizons to things that I wasn't aware of its importance. It's beyond the encryption. It's or like encrypted email or signal. It's much deeper than this. It would make me think where I'm working. It's not about collecting tools of security. One of my colleagues I've shared with him this tool, and he told me, you know what, we investigative journalists, we have a problem. We can track some story, but we don't take it easily to follow these tools, for instance, or encrypt the emails. So let's please start to think in a different way and to consider that security is very important in our work to protect our tools, our sources, not to expose ourselves, because this is we need to make sure that we're being loyal to our profession. So and while working, this is how I started to think. It's not only about and it's not a luxury thing. It's not something complimentary is something important. No, no, no. It's not luxury, and especially when we talk about there are sensitive issues that might endanger your lives, the lives of your sources. So we need to take all these things into consideration and to think how can we build defenses that can protect us as individuals and an individual within a group. Okay, let's just wrap up and open the floor to questions.
السلام عليكم أنا أمل محمد الحسن من السودان إحنا عندنا
Amal Mohammed Al Hassan from Sudan. Yeah, we have very big concerns about being tracked through our communication means. We use applications for our communications, WhatsApp, Telegram, and so on. I wanted to know how secured are these from being hacked? Could it be maybe? So this is one. The other question is that we always encounter this cutting off internet, and are there other alternatives when connections get disconnected? Thank you. Two important questions. The secure community communication is something very important to not only to journalists but to anyone who uses technology. This is one of the main activities that we use that we do over internet. I'd like to share with you something that, and you might find it even online, regardless of the application you're using. WhatsApp, encrypted email, or video conference. So the idea is that there are different stages where in these of any stages encryption could done. It could be sometimes the application itself that the service provider is not providing help. So in order to protect ourselves, we need to be to make sure that we're secured on all stages, all levels, and the type of regardless of the type of information you're using. There's the metadata that explains this data, but there are there's information that could be more risky than others, and applications more risky than others. For instance, WhatsApp does encryption from one phase, one end to end. So these are encrypted, and it's impossible. Anyone can decipher these encryptions. Facebook also, but however, Facebook can track this information and can. So although the content is encrypted, but the information that explains how this communication happened is there and can be tracked. As for the disconnection of internet, well, when it's something that is complete disconnection, this is difficult to tackle. Our ability is to, so in case there was, if there's banning to use any application, of course, there's the VPN application, but it could be used just to get listen to you or to get to information. There's the Proton when you use VPN. It's a Swiss company. They have their ways and technologies that help us in overcoming this ban. So, and this changes from one country to another depending on these applications and how they're governed or controlled. Okay, so we're told that we're time is over, but I just let me uh, tell you and how you use this tool. We will publish it on our, post it on our Facebook, Twitter, and Facebook, and I will share it with my colleagues in ARIJ. And we will conduct another 2-hour training online, and this will be done beginning of January, and we'll discuss it in details about this tool, about the security, in order to cover all these issues. Thank you very much. Thank you, ARIJ, for giving us the chance to be with you today. And always, anytime after you try this tool, we'll be very happy and keen to receive your feedback so as to develop it in the way that could be more applicable to you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.